Gorakshakar, founder and head of research at Avinash Mental Research Services, joining us now.
Question, it's very pertinent. Reliance Industries is the first one. Mohit from Ludhiana is actually asking this question, asking if it's actually advisable to buy into this counter right now. Avinash, good morning. Welcome to the show. Probably, this counter is back in focus and, given up a lot of those gains. So the momentum was just building in, and then we've seen this geopolitical impact on Reliance right now. You also seen the Jio IPO impending, some holding company discount coming in already. But how do you view Reliance right now? And is it advisable to enter this counter, is what Mohit is asking?
Yeah, yeah. Good morning, Puneet. See, I think Reliance Industries, the stock has got impacted largely because oil prices have surged. Obviously Brent prices the way they are. Obviously, if there is a kind of a spike in oil prices, that means that there is definitely going to be some margin pressure for Reliance. Although it's one of the most efficient and modern refineries, our sense is that in these prices, maybe in the short term, the volatility will continue till maybe a month's time. Our sense is that this war possibly could get over in the next 25 to 30 odd days, and if it happens, then I think you're going to see a good bounce in Reliance. So I think investors who have the kind of appetite to take a little bit of risk can obviously chip in. I think they can probably buy a little bit of quantity at the current level and wait for things to clear. I think fundamentally nothing is wrong, but I think if oil prices continue to remain elevated above 85 $90 a barrel, and this war continues for more than a month, then I think problems could further accelerate. So I think net one should hold on. Fresh buying is only advisable for investors who can take a 12 to 15-month call. I think these short-term uncertainties will definitely clear away, but in the longer term, I think the structural story seems to be quite solid.
All right, so that's the view coming in on Reliance. We've got our first caller for the day. Kishore is calling us from Bengaluru. Kishore, hi, a very good morning to you. How can we help you?
Hi, Mahima. Very good morning and happy Holi to you.
Thank you so much.
So I have a question on...
Wishing you the same as well.
Yes, thank you very much. So I have a query on the TARL. So recently I heard the conversation from the management as well, and the comments from the management was excellent. I also looked up the fundamentals before I purchased the stock. PE is very good and attractive. Valuation seems to be amazing, and the order book is twice, almost 2 times the market cap. But I'm worried about the legal issues what the company is facing. So I'm wondering what's the future outlook for, let's say, 2 to 3 years.
Okay, Kishore, got your question, and I really appreciate that you've done your research so well. So kudos to that. Avinash, I'll take this up with you. His concerns are valid. What's your viewpoint from a slightly long-term perspective for TARL?
I think in this market, the market does not look at fundamentals. They look at more on the sentiment side. And I think, despite the fact that, I think there are some legal issues pending, the most important thing is transformers as an industry is growing very rapidly. There's a huge pent-up demand for transformers, and we, have come to know that almost every transformer player is operating at peak level capacity. So demand is growing. So I think, in the near term, these factors could play an overhang on the stock. But if the investor has a 12 to 18 month kind of time frame, then I think he needs to hold on. In fact, he can even average at the current levels because it's a good company, a good management which is able to scale up the business. So I think continue to hold, but yes, take a long term view.
If it's a good time to average this, and since his horizon is almost 3 to 5 years, Avinash, would you recommend this?
Yeah, I think, Puneet, these are basically annuity businesses where, the business continues, because stock markets definitely will survive, and I think, transactions will happen. So CDSL is like a player which has got a virtual annuity kind of business model, not an asset heavy kind of business model. So I think if he's got this kind of time horizon, he can definitely add. But I think I would suggest, even if he wants to add, I think do it in a SIP way, because we don't know how the markets would perform going forward. And if at all there is a price drop even from current level, then he can average out, if he adopts a SIP approach.
Got our next caller. Benson is calling us from Mumbai. Benson, I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. Go ahead and ask your query.
Yeah, you corrected my name correctly. My query is on Enviro Infra Engineers. I purchased this almost a year ago at a 344 rate, and I purchased 1255 shares that time. But it has been going down since then, so just wanted to know your view on this.
Okay, I take this up with Avinash. Avinash is sitting on a loss of around 2.5 lakh rupees. What should he do on Enviro Infra?
No, I think, see, my guess is that he's probably purchased it at the peak level. The company has an order book of almost 3,500 crores. And I think, in the EPC business, especially the water business, the business has been consistently growing. So I think, the market sentiment has been bad and that is why the stock has been beaten down. But I think fundamentals continue to be quite solid. So unless he gives a time horizon of say 12 to 18 months and he averages his cost because he's almost 50% minus on his capital, unless and until that is done, one cannot expect a very decent risk reward. So I think start, accumulating slowly and try to reduce your average cost and keep a time frame of at least 12 to 18 months.
That's also coming in, and it's slightly more open-ended. And in today's market, what we are seeing, hence we are taking this question from Dhananjay. Avinash is actually asking that if in this volatile market, what can he do? Should he hold on or book profits or add investments? I know it's a very open-ended question, but we are seeing, the counters that have actually done well, Avinash, like auto, like metals, have started to see some pullback now. Investors may be booking profits. Would that be a strategy that you would recommend, Dhananjay, as well? What would you suggest?
No, I think, I think whenever you invest in these kind of drawdowns, the alpha creation is very solid. But I think it requires a little bit of time and patience. And I think investors who have a short term view should not enter the markets. But investors who have got a 12 to 18-month kind of time frame, could look at buying large cap stocks like Mahindra and Mahindra, or for that reason, even something like a NSDL. These are businesses which are not going to be wiped out by short term events. So I think, you got to be a little more patient and a little more realistic when you talk about investments. In this market, when everything is going against you, it's only such kind of businesses which will do well. So I think keep a time frame of at least 12 to 18 months and invest in these kind of large cap, because these businesses are not going to get over. Business will come back as usual once the clarity happens, once the war ends. And I think that is something which the markets will obviously get a clear reflection. You'll see a very sharp bounce back in the markets once there's a clear signal that the war has ended.
Okay.
Question that's coming in is on ITC. Now, our viewer Madhav from Hyderabad is holding 133 shares at 364. So he's currently sitting on a loss, asking a long-term view. Avinash, the theme likely a little changed now, right? It's more like a defensive play now in this wartime that we are seeing. Do you think that still doesn't make the cut, given what we see in the industry, the increase in tax rates? What would you recommend right now?
No, I think Puneet, at these levels, the downside for ITC looks, almost discounted in the price, and I think the company has also taken some price hikes, so that also could possibly help them regain their margins, possibly not in the March quarter, but at least in the April to June quarter. So my suggestion is that he needs to hold on for the next 12 to 18 months. This is a defensive play, and in this kind of market, offers a little better protection as compared to the other alpha, high beta names. So definitely hold on, but I think he could also average if he wants, but take a 12 to 18 month view.
Okay, so that's a constructive view coming in for ITC. But we've got our next caller. Geeta is calling us from Bengaluru. Geeta, hi. A very good morning to you. What's your query about?
Yeah, I'm holding Anantaraj 61 shares at the rate of 518.
Okay.
So is it good time to add more? This is for a long term, maybe 1.5 years or so. So can it give a good returns in long period?
Sure. I'll ask your question to Avinash. Avinash, everything, all buzz going around data centers has, kind of made this stock pretty volatile. What's the view like?
No, I think, investors who invest in this stock, I think need to take a slightly longer term view. The stock has been under pressure. But one thing is very clear, that this is one of those, rare companies which has got a mix of real estate and data center business. On the data center business, they are putting up a 300 megawatt data center capacity in North India, and I think demand is growing very rapidly. The government has also announced that by 2047, these centers could get tax benefits. So my sense is that if the investor buys in at the current level, which is currently weak, he needs to take at least a 12 to 18 month or maybe a 2-year view, because data center business is going to grow rapidly. In the short term, there could be volatility, but in the longer term, the business fundamentals continue to be very rock solid.
Ajay is calling us from Mumbai. Ajay, what's your question about?
My question is about Sai Life Sciences.
Okay.
I've taken 300 shares and I'm looking forward to accumulate. Is it a good share? Because I find a good chart structure of this share, and as well as fundamentally it's very sound. I would like to have both technical and fundamental view on this.
Okay, I'll take this up with Vaishali first. Vaishali, your view on the charts?
Yes, of course. Theoretically, it looks very promising and already gone high. So I would not be so very aggressive to buy at these levels, but I would rather wait for a dip, maybe around 900 level. That would be making me feel comfortable to, if long term is the perspective, and look for higher targets because the trend is very good.
Got that. Sorry, you are.
Yeah, Avinash, any view on this one? Because he wanted a fundamental view as well.
Yeah, I think here, unless the investor is a long-term investor and can take the volatility in his stride, I don't think in the short term the stock has got any near-term trigger. But yes, if we can hold on for the next, say, 18 to 24 months, a couple of years, I think then a decent risk reward can be expected.
Got that view, Avinash. But, Aarti Industries is another counter that we're focusing on. And Akshay from Mumbai is holding 45 shares of this counter, bought at 462. Now, Avinash, actually, let me come back to you on this one. Been a volatile counter in that sense. What would you recommend for Aarti Industries at this point of time?
No, again, it's a long-term kind of call, Puneet. I think, these kind of companies have got a very solid order book, a very good revenue visibility. But in the light of the geopolitical kind of tensions, there is a possibility that in the short term, the stock could underperform. But yes, in terms of fundamentals, I think the chemical sector is turning around. They have a very good large order book. So I think one can take a long-term view provided one can face the volatility in the short term.
Okay, the next one is from Ishwar, who's writing us from Kolkata, asking about Avanti Feeds. He says he's a long-term investor, wants to know if he can go ahead and invest in this counter at the current level or some mid-cap stock, to build up his portfolio. Avinash, I'll stick with you for this one. Avanti Feeds or any other mid-cap stocks that you're liking right now?
No, I think Avanti Feeds is a good company, but at these levels, I think fresh buying is not advisable. I think we continue to be positive, Mahima, on the banks, specifically the PSU banks. Something like a Canara Bank or maybe a Bank of Maharashtra. These businesses are more safer and less volatile, and I think it's business as usual in India. So I don't think businesses or quarterly numbers for these companies are going to be impacted. So I think rather than putting your money on something which has got a large exposure on the US market, a Canara Bank at the current levels or maybe a Bank of Maharashtra would be definitely be good choices both for the short to medium term.
Avanti Fee is a very interesting counter in that sense because traded between 400 and 600 for almost 4 years till the FTA started to come, and since then a one-way rally for this counter. The 5-year chart of course reflects that, but the 1-year chart will tell you the real picture for Avanti Feeds as well. But
Kumar, who's writing us from Bengaluru, asking about L&T. He wants to know if he can, kind of know an entry price for this particular counter. Avinash, I'll come to you on this one because it has exposure to the Middle East to a lot of extent. To a lot of extent, it's been falling since the past, couple of days since the war news has come in. What should an investor do right now who's holding L&T, and do you think this is a price that one can enter into?
No, I think for an investor, L&T is a kind of a company which can give very good returns over the next, say, 12 to 18 months. So I think, the near-term volatility is something which investors have to obviously face in this market. So they should continue to hold. I don't think they should do any panic sell-off unless they require some emergency kind of funding. And as far as new buying is concerned, I think between 3,500 to 3,800, it could be a good level where one could start buying. I think one cannot predict the price exactly, but around 3,500 to 3,800 is a good level where one can start nibbling, maybe do a small SIP kind of buying approach. That would definitely give a better risk reward in the longer term.
Avinash, you don't expect any kind of margin impact because of the fixed nature of its orders, because that's been one of the key concerns, right? Because while the order book is more long-term in nature, there could be some impact because of the fixed-term nature of its contracts. Is that a concern that you feel, or is it something that the company's lineage provides confidence on?
No, I think some margin pressure, Puneet, will be there, but I think this will not be extended more than maybe a couple of quarters. Because the management is also very clear that they know how to ensure that how they recover their fixed costs. And I think once the sentiment changes, the geopolitical condition changes, I think you could see a good bounce back in this stock. But yes, 3,500 to 3,800 could be a good level to actually start nibbling. We exactly don't know what price the stock will finally settle down, but yes, 35 to 3,800 is a good buying area.
The next caller, dialing in from Shimla now, Avinash has a stock query for us. Avinash, good morning, welcome to the show. What's your query?
Sir, I have TCS 50 shares at 2791.
Uh-huh.
And I want to have a long-term view of 1 to 1.5 years, whether I should hold or sell it now or add more at this level, present level.
Got your question, Vinesh, but Avinash, a year and a half, given what's happening with IT now, might seem more short-term than long-term, right, at this point of time. But what would you recommend Vinesh to do? He's holding shares at 2791. Should he average down, continue to hold?
No, I think it's better to wait for maybe another quarter or so. I think we need to get little bit of clarity as to how the company is positioning itself, considering now AI is very much talked about. So I think at these levels, it's better to hold, wait for the March quarter. And I think hopefully after the full year numbers are out, we could get better clarity. And I think probably that could be the right time to look into buying fresh into TCS.
Okay, all right. So that's the view on TCS.
It's another tough one on Dixon Tech. Now, Anita Reddy actually bought it at 11,400. She's asking if she should hold on or exit or consider adding more shares at this point of time. But, Avinash, let me come back to you. On Dixon Tech, what would you suggest? It's been one where it's been a difficult one to actually call for both analysts, investors, shareholders. Is it a good time to add now?
No, I think Puneet, the stock is corrected from higher levels of 18,000 and now the stock is trading at around 98.50. My sense is that it's better to wait for a quarter and no fresh buying is advisable because see in the AMS space now there are not many big triggers. Almost everything is discounted in the price. And I think even at these levels, the valuations are not cheap. They are fair to expensive. So I would say that, at least for a couple of quarters, let's wait for the company to perform and, deliver better numbers. And only then fresh buying can be advisable. So I think better to hold, but no fresh buying advisable at current levels.
Okay, the next one is on Swiggy. Preetham Chatterjee says that he has 1100 shares at the levels of 415. He wants to know if he can buy 900 more shares and average out at the current levels. I mean, he's bought at elevated levels for sure. The stock is currently trading at 295. Avinash, I'll stick with you for this one. Your view on Swiggy, because Kotak recently added this particular counter to their portfolio, but have slightly cut the target price considering competition. What's the view here?
No, I think here also I would suggest that it's better to wait for a couple of quarters. See, I think the way Swiggy has been recording losses, my sense is that even at these levels, valuations look little elevated. So better to hold. If he wants to buy in, wait for the March quarter. And I think that would be a good time because obviously the March quarter is also unlikely to be great. So probably he could buy it at maybe lower levels and he can average down better.
Samir is asking a question on and asking if it's a long-term bet. Avinash, a quick view on this one as well.
So here also, Puneet, I think the stock has done nothing in the last 2 years. I think clearly, the internet business has also plateaued because most of the population has been covered. And most importantly, I think the markets want to see very strong numbers. In fact, in the last conference call, the management hinted that on an annualized basis, top line will grow by just 10%. Now, this is not something which is going to excite the market. So I think it's better to wait for quarter 4 numbers. No fresh buying advisable.
Okay. All right. The next one is on Afcons Infra. Viraj from Bengaluru wants to know if this is a good time to average. He's holding 150 stocks at an average price of 373. Since the IPO, he's been averaging this counter is what he's saying. Avinash, your view on this one?
Mahima, I think quarter 3 numbers have been very bad. Profitability has taken a big hit. And I think, unless we see better execution and better margins coming back, normally the fourth quarter is supposed to be a very strong quarter. So I would prefer to wait for the quarter 4 before making a fresh commitment.
Got that view. And the infra space, definitely out of investors in radar as of now. So Afcons continues to be at 52-week low at this point of time. But another caller now dialing in from Delhi. And Nitin has a stock query for us. Nitin, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Buy L&T today at 3,800. I'm looking to buy CAMS at about 625.
Okay.
And some other ideas I can get. Warren Beverages is something I'm looking at. CDSL, BSC, and DLF at about 520 if it comes. But some ideas will help.
And Nitin, are these all long-term ideas, Nitin?
12 years. Yeah, 10 to 12 years.
Okay, long-term ideas. Got it. Avinash, he's listed out a few stocks, but a couple of them, Varun Beverages, DLF, I think DLF we did speak about, and you've given your view on CDSL as well. Anything that he said that comes on your radar, or what would you pick right now for the long term for the next decade?
No, I think Varun Beverages definitely should do well this year. Last year the winter extended a little more, so the business was impacted. So Varun Beverages at these levels definitely seems to be a good bet. I think if you can consider the next 12 to 15 months, and hopefully, I think the first half of this year is going to be a kind of a very solid year for Varun Beverages. But I think stocks like Mahindra and Mahindra, Indian Hotels, or for that reason, I think even companies like Tata Motors, and if he has a slightly longer term horizon, these could be very good defensive bets. At the same time, could offer a decent risk reward. So I think M&M and maybe Indian Hotels, which has been beaten down, I think one could definitely look at accumulating.
The next one is, also in that Alcobev space. Aniket from Karnataka is asking about Piccadilly Agro. He says if this is the right time to enter from a long-term perspective of 4 years, or any other stock that you're liking in this space of, Alcobev. Avinash, your view?
I think my sense is, see, this is a stock which has been very volatile, but I think within the liquor space, something like a Radico Khaitan or maybe a United Spirits, these could be better bets. I think these are large players and they command a much better brand premium, and obviously are there in the B2C kind of segment. So maybe these companies, if one takes the next 2 to 3 years, definitely a decent amount of money can be paid.
Got that view.